If you've been working to manage blood sugar levels, you've probably heard of simple carbs and complex carbs. But do you actually know what these terms mean and what the difference is between these two types of carbs? Then stay tuned, because today I'm breaking it all down. I'm explaining to you what simple carbs are and what complex carbs are, the impact they have on blood sugar, and what foods contain each. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, Erin here with Healthy Mom Happy Family, and today I want to talk to you about two terms people with diabetes hear probably very often: complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates. Now, I have used these terms for years with my own clients, but I know they can often be confusing, especially when you hear something is complex. I just automatically think when we hear that word complex carbohydrates, you feel like this might be something overwhelming or something that may be potentially damaging to diabetes and blood sugar. So I really wanted to dive in today and explain what these terms truly mean and walk you through it so that you understand, what a simple carbohydrate is, what a complex carbohydrate is, where they're found, what they do for blood sugar, and really what it means for you when you're trying to plan out your meals and your snacks and keep your blood sugar in the healthiest range possible. Now, before we dive in and get started, I just want to remind you that if you like tips and tricks on managing type 2 diabetes, you're looking for healthier recipes and lower carb recipes, then I would love for you to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss new tips, tricks, or videos. Okay, so let's dive in and really break down the difference between simple and complex carbs. Now, simple carbs are just that. They're called simple because they're really simple for your body to digest. So these carbohydrates are pretty much either in their simplest form already, which is a simple sugar, or they're pretty close to it. So because simple carbs are easy for your body to break down and digest, they digest really rapidly, and that can lead to a spike in blood sugar levels. So when we think about what a simple carbohydrate is, this could be things like candy, sodas, white flour products, so white breads and white pasta, white rice. Basically when we look at what a simple carbohydrate is, they're foods that contain very little fiber. So the carbohydrates in them break down rapidly, they're quickly converted to sugar in the bloodstream, and then they elevate your blood sugar pretty quickly after consuming them. Now, because of this, it's recommended that you limit simple carbohydrates in your diet to improve blood sugar management. Okay, we don't want to eat a large amount of our carbohydrates each day from simple carbs, otherwise it's going to be a little bit harder to keep blood sugar levels in check. We're going to look at the other hand, which is complex carbohydrates. So these carbs are called complex, not because they're overwhelming or something that you have to research, but basically they're just harder for your body to break down. There's complexity to the digestion of these foods, and that means they're going to digest slower and be converted into sugar slowly in the body. So these carbohydrates generally are rich in resistant starch or fiber. So fiber and resistant starch, they resist digestion. The body has to work harder during the digestive process. And when that happens, the blood sugar is released more slowly into the bloodstream, so you get this more muted response, and so blood sugar goes up much more gradually, and you don't have that big spike and crash like you would get from simple carbohydrates. Another benefit with complex carbs when it comes to diabetes management and just general health is because they are digested more slowly because of the fiber content and the resistant starch, you tend to feel full longer. Okay, because your body takes longer to digest them, they stay within your stomach longer and your intestines longer, so you do feel more satisfied. When we compare it to simple carbohydrates, like say you eat a handful of candy, they don't really keep you full, right? They digest rapidly, and so you quickly feel hungry again. So if you're thinking about weight management, you're thinking about portion regulation, appetite management, that's where we get a benefit from complex carbohydrates as well. So yes, they benefit blood sugar management, but they also have numerous other benefits too. So when you think about complex carbohydrates, these are the foods that are more in their whole form, right? So we're gonna look at whole fruits and vegetables, that would be a source of complex carbohydrates. Whole grains like whole wheat bread, brown rice, beans, and lentils, they're fibrous sources of carbohydrate, and they typically have very little to no added sugar. So all those things work together to make it harder for your body to break them down. They convert to glucose more slowly, and that results in better blood sugar management. Okay, so if you have diabetes or you're working to prevent diabetes, you're also working to manage blood sugar levels. So the more often you choose complex carbohydrates over simple carbs, the better it can be for your blood sugar. But I want you to keep in mind that the type of carbohydrate you choose is not the only thing that impacts blood sugar, okay? It is not the only thing. The amount of the food you eat, the portions of carbohydrate at one time, along with things like the time of day, your activity level, and even the other food you eat along with the carbohydrate, like how many proteins and fats and added fiber, all of these things play a role in how your body is going to respond and how quickly or slowly your blood sugar will rise after that meal. So for an example, if let's say you want to have a small amount of simple carbohydrate, okay? You want to have a small amount of simple carbohydrate, you love the food, but when you have it, you eat a source of protein and fat with it, that's going to have much less impact on your blood sugar than if you were to eat a huge bowl of complex carbohydrate, right? So if you have a tiny piece of candy at the same time that you're having protein and healthy fat, you're not going to see a big jump in blood sugar. But if you sat down to a giant bowl of brown rice, even though that's a complex carb, it's too many carbohydrates at one time and blood sugar is going to rise. So it's all about that balance, and just because something's a simple carb or a complex carb doesn't mean that's all we need to focus on when it comes to blood sugar management. So when you're thinking about blood sugar management, okay, it's all about balance. Simple carbs aren't off limits, okay? And I know if you've been here for a while, you know that I don't like to tell you that there's bad foods and good foods, you know, all foods in moderation. You just have to pay attention to how much you're eating, how often you're eating them, and what you're pairing those foods with. I don't want you to eat simple carbohydrates in large amounts every day, even without diabetes or blood sugar issues. That's not beneficial to health. But it doesn't mean you have to stay away from your favorite foods either. If you are going to have a simple carbohydrate, you want to pair it with a source of protein or fat or fiber so that it is digested more slowly and has more of a muted response on blood sugar. And then when you think about complex carbohydrates, just because they're better for blood sugar management, it doesn't mean it's a free-for-all with them either. We still have to pay attention to how much we're eating. Okay, if we have too many carbohydrates of any source at one time, that can cause blood sugar levels to spike. Right? We still have to space them out during the day. We still have to look at what else we're eating with them and the portion size. So if you want to manage blood sugar, it's really important that we're spacing all carbohydrates out throughout the day and we're working on balance. Balance means that your meals have a protein, a healthy fat, fiber, along with the source of carbohydrate, because that is going to help you when it comes to managing blood sugar. And I also want you to remember, if you have diabetes, every person with diabetes is an individual and you respond to different foods in different ways. That's why it is so important to test blood sugar levels regularly, before and after meals, when you're having a new food, so you can see how you respond to foods and the portions. You know, it's so important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all diabetes diet or one set carbohydrate recommendation I can give you and say this will work specifically for you. Everybody's an individual. And that's why if you do have diabetes or you're trying to prevent diabetes, it is so important to hook up with a dietitian and a physician specialized in diabetes and a diabetes management team, because they can help you to make the right choices based on your individual needs and goals, food preferences, culture, all of those things. They can really help to customize your treatment plan so you know exactly how many complex carbs are good for you, what you should combine them with, how often you should eat them for the best blood sugar management. Okay, so when it comes down, the bottom line between simple carbohydrates and complex, simple are simple for us to digest. They digest rapidly, which means blood sugar levels will rise rapidly. Complex are more complex in digestion, so they're digested more slowly, which means blood sugar rises more gradually. But all sources of carbohydrate do impact blood sugar, so we still have to monitor our portions and space them out throughout the day. And anytime you can combine a source of carbohydrate with something that slows it down in digestion, like protein, fat, or fiber, that is where you're going to see an improvement in blood sugar response. All right? So let me know what questions you have about complex and simple carbohydrates, and how have you noticed? You know, if you want to have a bit of simple carbohydrate, have you noticed if you combined it with protein and fat, your blood sugar is better? Let me know, comment below, I'd love to hear from you. And if you like today's video, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss new tips, tricks, and recipes. Thanks for joining me.